Good afternoon to all. I'm from Vastunidhi. I'm Shivang. I have a lovely discussion here on redevelopment and the pros and cons of it and how things are moving forward when it comes to redevelopment projects pretty much happening all across India now. So let's say I got this whole input on like that we need to talk about incremental and phased redevelopment design and the opportunities and challenges that sort of come across. Redevelopment is one policy that pretty much all development authorities are now incorporating in their master plans. Pretty much all the major cities are coming up with redevelopment policies. The story goes like this, that most of the cities came about, or the development authorities came into practice about 50, 60 years back, which is primarily 15 to 20 years into the country's independence. And after that, all the cities started to develop with some controlled bylaws and regulations, and things started coming across all the cities, especially the metropolitan cities that we see in India. So most of the buildings that we see today happen to be 30, 40, 50 years old, and the land on which the development has happened in the core of the city is also sort of seeing this development happening since the last 30, 40, 50 years. So we have to reimagine growth, having continuity, adaptability, and again, a long-term vision, which makes the cities sustainable for the next 6 to 7 decades again. So primary factors that we avoid addressing, which is the core reality. We see a lot of hue and cry, especially coming in from environmental experts and people from this domain, wherein they say that we should not be doing a lot of redevelopment because we are erecting concrete jungles and so on and so forth. But we need to understand that buildings that were done 30 to 40-year-old back were never designed for today's realities. Most of those campuses, in fact, most of the government quarters that we see pan-India, which are 30 years old, have no STP systems over there. There is no grey water being reused, and there's no planning which is done with grey water being reused. We have inadequate or failing drainage networks, and the campuses are not able to accommodate adequate drainage facilities, which is basically leading to excess water consumption and flooding within the campuses, etc. There is zero integration of renewable energy systems, and therefore barely any solar energy generation or other sort of composting, so to say. And there's minimal consideration for environmental performance because there was no such rules back in those days and no such guidelines which people would follow. And these are not surface level issues. They are systemic gaps which are embedded in the original designs that we have. And without redevelopment, these gaps cannot be corrected meaningfully. We at Vastunidhi are presently engaged in lots of redevelopment work in Delhi and as well as NCR region, even doing some projects in Bhopal and Guwahati and so on and so forth, wherein whenever we go for the environment impact assessment and the clearances thereof, we very categorically present how we are contributing to these campuses in a positive way by doing redevelopment. So by adding STPs, by reusing the grey water, by increasing the green cover, by going taller, by integrating renewable energy systems, and being more conscious towards the environment, what we are designing is basically better for the city in the longer run. Yes, we are definitely increasing the population, which will have an impact on the roads, which is a downside to this. But at the same time, what we are trying to do is creating more sustainable environments, which are better for the city at large. The public perception, redevelopment today is often viewed with skepticism. Lots of people keep complaining that there's too much construction happening, which is leading to pollution. Yes, that's true, because until this construction work is complete, which is obviously spanning over 2 to 3 decades in every developing city, the cities are going to witness a lot of pollution. Turning cities into concrete jungles, well, if you look at the statistics, the concrete is increasing, but the green cover also is increasing. Because we're going taller, the ground coverage is reducing, and we're adding more trees and more green cover to all these locations, so to say. Loss of character and green cover. So now this aspect is something that an urban arts commission, so to say, or an urban governing body in a city has to control. This lies in the hands of the government, especially like when you see a DUAC working in Delhi, which is the Delhi Urban Arts Commission. It's their job or their duty, and every architect for that matter needs to take their approval. So it's their responsibility to ensure that the character is not lost. We look at cities like London and New York. There are arts commissions or urban commissions which approve all the elevations of all the buildings in order to ensure that the colonial character, so to say, or that English character is retained in all buildings across London. Even the modern buildings which come up ensure that the views to the older buildings are not compromised. So, well, this critique often stays very visual and emotional and not very structural. The real question is not whether we should redevelop, but how we should be redeveloping the infrastructures that we're doing. So, because avoiding redevelopment does not preserve sustainability, it often locks in inefficiency and decay. Most of the buildings which are already 40 years old, they are decaying, they're not fit for use, they need to be vacated soon. And they are inefficiently designed campuses because they were designed at the time of in the 60s, 70s with then technology of RCC and the primitive construction methodologies. So having said that, yes, there are real design challenges as well when you come to redevelopment, and we need to approach them all responsibly and try and achieve what the earlier developments could not, and at the same time maintain sustainability in the campus. So when we look at height and land use, land in a city is finite and it's not going to increase unless we expand the city. Going taller is necessary, but it must be balanced and not excessive. Lots of developers come to us and they say, we have zero height restriction here, so why don't we go like 50 floors? And we're always recommending that, I think, for a city like Delhi, or for that matter, NCR, 20-25 floors is optimum and we don't need to go taller. And within that, we can maintain and achieve a good enough FAR, which takes me to the second point, which is about FAR being optimum or maximum. So when we look at maximizing the FAR, which is a general mandate, it is very easy. In redevelopment in Delhi, you get an FAR of 3, and everybody will come up to you and say, please maximize the FAR and give us a 3 FAR in the campus. But what is ideal is that the architect needs to suggest how we can optimize the FAR and ensuring that livability is maintained. And we're not just going tall for the sake of it. We're actually creating a balance of the ground plane and the height that we achieve. So achieving a 2.5 or a 2.4 is okay if you're trying to preserve the environment. We don't need to necessarily maximize the FAR. It's optimum utilization of it. Now, a major challenge that we see in developed cities is tree preservation versus the construction pressure. Because going taller calls in for car parking, going taller calls in for having basements and having stilt infrastructures for accommodating the car parks. So we need to ensure that the design must adapt to the existing ecology and not erase it. So preserving the trees is necessary. And at the same time, the construction has to be done looking at the present plantation of trees in order to preserve as many trees as we can. We don't have land for compensatory plantation in the city. So it is ideal to maintain the trees where they are. And yes, this is the biggest challenge that we face in redevelopment projects, so as to preserve the trees. Next challenge is parking and mobility. So car parking remains a critical constraint. Everybody has, every household has 2 cars these days. And all this mandatory car park requirement impacts the basements, impacts the services and the overall planning efficiency, which mandates for us to dig 2 basements or 3 basements or even go above. For example, in a city like Mumbai, people have been making car parks which are like 5 to 6 story or even 10-story high. So that needs to be sort of addressed, and we have to come up with better solutions for car parkings in terms of multi-level car parkings being developed in a neighborhood, or having last mile connectivity through public transport, which reduces the burden on private vehicles and car parking infrastructures. Then there's another challenge which we face, which is the phased execution complexity. So we need to upgrade systems while spaces remain occupied, because it's an existing city, there's an existing fabric to it, and the systems need to be upgraded within that, which requires precision in planning and sequencing. Now, coming to the opportunity in terms of redevelopment, that we have to do it right this time. Incremental redevelopment allows us to correct systemic gaps that cannot be retrofitted easily. So when we're actually going in for incremental redevelopment or phased redevelopment of the city at large, yes, we are integrating STPs, grey water recycling is being done, efficient drainage is being done, but there is a call for a city level STP/grey water recycling framework and an efficient drainage framework, which the city needs to plan and provide to the citizens so that all these tall developments can happen. And it's not a challenge at a later stage when the development has happened that the drainage network is insufficient, the city level STPs are insufficient, etc. Introduce solar energy and renewable systems. The city must expand to have solar farms beyond the vicinity, beyond the limits of the city. so that the city can have better renewable energy clusters in and around the city. And yes, preserving the existing trees and planning more around them, reducing the ground coverage and freeing up breathable open spaces, and designing with long-term environmental performance in mind. So this is more of a course correction at an urban scale, while architects have the responsibility of doing the course correction at a plot level or at a building level scale. We need support from the governments and the municipal authorities at a large for course correction at a larger urban scale. Our approach, not all redevelopment is growth, some of it is largely repair. And while we are engaged in multiple redevelopment projects pan India, our question is never, are we building too much? Our question always is, are we building responsibly enough to correct what already exists? So that we're not going overboard, we're not constructing a bit too much, and we're actually doing what the plot needs or what the land needs or what the land can digest. Couple of projects that I would just like to highlight. This is a residential project that we're doing, 30-storied, in the middle of a concrete jungle, unfortunately. And the challenge was to create 6 residential towers to maximize and achieve the FAR. We tried to cut it short. We could have gone 40 floors. We did only 30 because the scale only demanded so much, and 40 floors would not have been practical for such a place. And also having good views of the landscape at the bottom that you can see, because there was a nice park at the bottom. And we tried to retain all of that and just build 6 towers with an appropriate height wherein we could get good views. Also giving good human scale spaces for the people to relax. Also, embedding the landscape within the concrete jungle. So there's a swimming pool at the stilt level, and we scooped out the terrace so that the landscape would sort of come down towards the stilt. Also very interesting project here. So we're also engaged in lots of IT developments per se. This is one of our upcoming IT project in Noida. The challenge here was that we had an 11-acre land, and most like most other IT parks, which have barely any green spaces, our client requested us to have maximum amount of green within the project itself, which has 30% ground coverage. And we are very happy to sort of claim that within the 11-acre land, we've almost retained a 4-acre park, and which sort of makes it more lively, makes it more livable, and makes it very interesting. So the entire car parking sits under the park, and the park is having extensive filling of about 1.5 to 1.8 meters, which can accommodate all sorts of trees and give a very nice experience to the users who are coming to the project. So there's a way to go about redevelopment. There's a way to go about massive large-scale development projects. And if we do it the right way, we can certainly sort of achieve wonders and be more sustainable and environmentally conscious. So I would just say in the end, let's just build what the world deserves. And we don't just design spaces, we shape environments where we feel that care can thrive, systems can perform, and people can live every single day. Thank you.